Hey, hi guys, welcome to Cafe IO. Cafe IO में आपका स्वागत है. So, in today's video, we have a guest with us. He's a third year college student, but he has already done a book and a lot of community building. He's working extensively into data science and is almost an expert in Python. And that's a lot to see in a third year student. So let's hear it from Lakshay. Sorry. And over to you, Lakshay, for your introduction.
Uh, Hello, Krish. Thank you so much. So, I'm Lakshya Kumar, currently in third year at ATI University, pursuing data and digital transformation. So, I always want to work in industries, not limit myself to academics or something. So, when I came in Bangalore, I started interacting with a lot of communities, and I myself have been a speaker at so many different communities, different venues, and I also started my own community in Bangalore, that's Connect AI. Apart from that, I love working with industry. So I launched a market product that is currently in pilot phase. Apart from that, I'm working for a UK based startup, and and as you mentioned, I written a book about data science. So basically, that book covers how a data science can be used. Can like see data science is a tool that anyone can use in their real life. So I have explained the ways, methods, how you can use data science and like, in your daily life to solve problems.
Awesome. That's quite a lot of things. So let's try to get into each of them and try and understand how other students can benefit from your experience. And we'll go each of these in detail. So maybe let's start about community building, right? So you have worked in data science. You let's say you're working through data science, trying to understand it, and you have also done community building, right? How do you see these areas evolving? Do you see students picking up community building as an active exercise and also contributing to communities? And how are they contributing from? Is it just largely data science as it was maybe 2 years back, or are there new trends coming up within this space that new kids who are coming fresh out of college or new graduates can maybe tune into and learn around?
Okay, so what I see data science is basically more of experimentation. The more you experiment, the more you learn. So even when I started with machine learning, data and everything, and I wrote my first machine learning algorithm in class 11th, and I still am at sorry class 12. It was still more of prediction of COVID-19, like probability how, that what's the probability that you have COVID-19 based on symptoms. I still remember that model, the minimum it gives was 6%, maximum it gives was 500%. That cannot give probability.
Quite good.
So, but then when I came here, I started to because of course did no college teach data science in first year. But I was curious. I want to experiment and learn data science more because I like solving real life problem with numbers. If you give me a maths problem, I won't be able to solve it. But if you give me a data science problem and ask me to use these numbers, these values like mean, median, standard deviation in real life, I'll probably do it. But that's of my interest. So coming back to community building, because you see data I have to experiment a lot. For example, if you're building a neural network, how many layers, how many neurons, that comes from experience. So what I see like for data science, if anyone want to pursue data science, I must like they should attend like all these community meetups, interact with people. The best thing is interaction. I was a very ambivert initially when I came. I hardly go to anyone and ask and like try to talk. But as soon as like I increased the frequency of my events, I started getting a little more confident and started approaching people. And I found a good network of where I can like talk about my data science stuff, like collaborate on new projects and all those things. So this is where I see like all the students they should involve themselves on all these community activities, try attending different meetups, and of course you should and of course like be open for collaboration because you might not know data science, but someone out there might know data science and you will be benefited.
Good. So there's few things which I really liked about your answer on your direction in which you're headed. I think the way you have learned is nice. That is usually a good and a beaten track. You have failed through problems. You have done through problem solving, and you also talked about some of really foundational stuff which I don't see students really talking about. I've rarely seen people talk about mean, medium, mode, and having an understanding of statistics. I know neural networks is cool, but having the understanding of statistics is good. So the key takeaway, guys, for you is practice your way through problems and challenge yourself. That's definitely one. I think second thing which he did talk about was do contribute to communities, engage yourself, and network with people, and that will definitely help and boost it up. So maybe let's see that. Let's see this through. So let's take a problem that you have solved. So walk us through the problem solving process, and what was the problem that you solved in data science. Maybe take a deeper dive and give people the insights as to what was your thinking then, and maybe what was the tools that you used, and if you want to do the same thing now, would you do it differently?
Okay, so you like in the summarizing question, you are saying like what's the difference, the data science that I used to do and what versus what I am doing it now. That's something or an extension.
Yes. So take a problem. So think of a problem that you would have solved in the past. Let's say maybe a year back you solved a problem. And walk us through the thinking process that you had. How did you solve it? And fast forward now 1 year, if you are able to if you want to solve the same problem, would you do anything different?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just go back to that COVID-19 prediction example only. So it was like during the second wave of COVID when I started learning about machine learning and everything. So at that time I learned about linear regression only. So I just found some data set on Kaggle and, the basics of machine learning, of course, whatever input you're giving, it has to be number. So I just did something, just did some tweaking and converted everything to number randomly without knowing what's the basic foundations of data science, what the principles I have to use. I just cleaned it randomly. After me, it was just only 15 to 30 data points. And I think like that's a very lesser data points for anyone to like work with.
Okay.
And that I was mentioned like I was learned on linear regression. I fitted that same model linear regression, got an got R square of 0.88. I was happy. Okay, my model is very accurate. I can deploy it. I deployed it. I tested it, and I saw like it's giving values like in negatives more than 100. That can't be probability. So that's where I started like data is not just about writing few lines of code, converting it to numbers and putting it through model. But now when I see with any problem, the first thing is you have to clearly write your problem. What exactly the
True.
problem statement, what you want to achieve. I remember like one of my professors said if you are supposed to do data analysis on anything, so first thing is just look at the data and write down questions, like all the questions that come to your mind. Maybe whatever, what's the maximum, minimum, standard deviation, like in terms of real world, what's the significance of that question or maybe that value in the real world. And then start, and of course there has to be a certain process that has to be followed for cleaning. So, for example, at that time any symptom, I just converted randomly number one, number two, number three. But now I understood like there's the order. For example, if you want to convert hot or cold, so you can write it as zero and one. But if you want to convert, for example, Karnataka or Haryana as in number, you can't rank anyone as
Correct.
zero or one. You have to create dummies. So of course that principle comes into play, but that comes from experiences. And whenever I today make any machine learning model or we train anything, the first thing I do, before putting to training, I export the model and manually see everything if it's making sense. For code, like of course it's can be done by code also, but I prefer going through that Excel CSV file and then looking at each and every row column, getting an overview if everything is making sense to me. And then once that's done, then I deploy it to my whatever
Cool.
model I want to
So
give machine
so
learn,
so to
linear
sum it
regression,
up, you have
logistic, decision
seen
tree,
through
and then finally
the
deploy it.
journey how it evolves. Usually when kids start with data science, they're extremely fixated on accuracy, and usually it's training accuracy or something like that. And then when things really hit into production or live environments, you really see the failures coming and things not getting aligned. But I think you have nailed it beautifully, and you have gotten a good learning from your professors as well. The first step to solving any problem is really understanding the problem. Is, it's like the good old proverb says, well begin is half done. So if you have been able to distill the problem, and in data science terminology, be able to understand from data as to what is your hypothesis going to be, you have really started on a good foot. And the second part is, never skip the process. There is a reason why there is a given order to things. So make sure you follow the process when you do any problem solving, be it data science or traditional problem solving. Don't get into, like, for example, I'm a software architect, so I'll when every time I try to design software systems or try to think of an architecture, I always go back to thinking what are my functional requirements, what are my non-functional requirements, and these two essentially give me the boundaries in which I need to play. All right, good, good, nice, nice.
Agree.
You want to add something?
Cool. Mhm. Yeah, so I remember, like as you mentioned, like initially when I started building a machine learning model, my final goal was to get a good accuracy. Watching some YouTube channels and they said 70% of good accuracy, I thought like I got 0.8 at R square. I'm like, okay, this is pretty good model, let's deploy it. But
All right,
when you
cool.
realize, you see like
So
what,
so
even if
let's
it's
move on
97%
to
accurate,
the
last
the
3%
author
in
side
business
of
and
you.
real world creates a
Let
lot of
me just
changes.
start by saying that I don't know any other three third year students who have written a book. And I know quite a lot of students. I've interviewed quite a lot of them. I've worked with a lot of them. So what motivated you to write a book? And how did it start? We'll talk about the book also, but let's try and understand what motivated you to do that. Wow.
Okay, so this all started, I'll be honest, it all started in class 8 and 9. So I, I was a science student, and of course, and I was in ICSC. So of course, in ICSC, you are supposed to choose your stream in class 9. And the two subjects that I'm always scared of was maths and physics. So maths and physics in so I was so like during these exams, I was more focused on how should I get how which chapters should I do so that I work so that I can get good grades. And then I correlated that with number of hours I'm studying. I'm like, can there be a way that by can I predict by number of hours I'm studying, I can predict how much marks will I get? Also, then it was all again, and I came to college and here are some more experiences. And then I even got more problems in first and second year about related to my daily activities, my regular class assignments, and everything. There, I realized so people think that data science is just a field, a career, and they're seeing it's a technical domain that no one else except a data scientist or someone who is like master of statistics technology can do. So I wanted to bridge that gap where people think that data science is just a profession, but no, you can use basic data science for the probability in your real world. That was my major goal by writing the book. If you see my book, it's written in layman's language. The second chapter is all about my experience, how I wanted to predict my marks. For example, students. Of course, students always say, okay, I studied for 9 years for this exam. I got this much percentage of marks. For this exam, I studied this much. I'll easily get so and so percentage of marks. So I tried to correlate me as a student how I wanted to use data science in my real world. One more example, I live in Haryana, Faridabad. So of course summers are really hot that time. So when there was summers, I try to forecast every day like will it rain or not,
Okay.
and I go to newspaper and see what's the probability it will rain. Then of course, I wanted it to rain because it was so irritating during those times. So I realized, okay, if I have previous year's record for the same day, I can get a probability that if will it rain or not, apart from the newspaper values that I get.
That's actually great. So I have had similar problems. I'll say too that I have tried to chase, like weather is definitely there, and Marx was also there. So very interesting that what motivated you was also how you learn through, which is problem solving. And I think it would be nice to so you said it's very lucidly written book, right? So is it like uh, is the book more about from a technology perspective, or is the more from a, let's say, how to get started and a guide perspective?
So basically, I say it's a layman's language. For that book have code snippets, but I explained what exactly those code snippets are. What does those mean? So
Okay.
in the beginning,
Excuse me.
given a very crisp introduction about Python and what these are. And like nowhere in the book I mentioned about algorithms. Just given a code snippet, explain them what input has to be given and why, and what output will come. But and why that output will come, I have explained everything. It's in the layman's language.
Okay, good. So that's really nice to know. So how deep is the book? So maybe let me. So you have talked about data science and problem solving, but have you also gone down into, like, working and explaining Python, explaining machine learning and data science in general?
To be honest, no, because this book I wanted it to be for someone who don't want to do technology or don't want to get
Okay.
into tech.
So this is data science for non-tech people.
Exactly.
Okay, that's actually a very large audience, and you'll be surprised as to how many people in the industry, and I've worked with a lot of data science managers. Uh, a good simple introduction could be really useful to people. So
Exactly.
I'll just take the name of your book. So it's called From Data to World. It's available on Amazon, guys. Again, this is not a promo for book, but if you are interested in, I'm really interested in seeing what does such a young person think about data science, and what sort of book he writes. Just curious about trying to get somebody's perspective who's relatively much younger than me. So yeah, that's
Because
nice. maybe
and
maybe Go on,
Yeah.
please.
And of course, like this is my first book, so of course I might because I rarely read books. I remember
Okay.
the only book I read was my curriculum English book, Merchant of Venice and The Tempest. That's it.
Okay.
After that, I don't read books, but after seeing like these way students perceive data science, I wanted to write a book. So of course, like feedback, I'm open to feedback, and
Okay.
I'm planning for its next version as well.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome. Let's maybe get into a final question which really bugging me. So writing a book must require a lot of commitment, right? So how did you manage your time? For younger students, people tend to start a lot of things but end very few of them, and most likely it's somehow the degree is finished for most of the students. At least I know it was for me, for sure. So how did you manage your time?
I think that's a really good question. Like for any student, we have a lot of things apart from college assignments, personal growth, everything. So it all started in January. So my New Year's resolution was I have to write a book by end of this year. And literally, I use some tools where I track where I track my daily tasks, what I'm supposed to do. So in a college, so every day we get a certain amount of free time. So of course, the
Okay.
writing book every day will be very boring for anyone. So I'll be like, okay, like once in a so an entire week, I'll just finish half of the chapter, including research and the content. This is the
Okay.
goal I made, and of course, I missed many a times, but most of it was completed during my summer break when my second year was over and I was at home and I was getting a little bored. So I thought, let's finish the book.
How did you find a publisher, or is it self-published?
No, no. I was looking online and then I got some Instagram ad and then from there I reached out to those publishers.
Awesome. All right, cool. So we'll take a pause there and hear from Lakshay in the next podcast, which will be about slightly different topic and going more deeper into Java and problem solving, because he does Java as well, and we'll get into a little bit of web development and how to build a personal brand as a student. So that's what the next podcast is going to be, guys. So Lakshay, thank you so much for your time. Any last words for students who are listening? Maybe something you want to pass on to them?
The only thing I'll say, like earlier, I when I before starting college, I was only focused on academics. But then I see like college life is not only about academics or getting a job. It's more about experiences. So like since 2023 is about to end, of course, yesterday only I was thinking like what all experiences I got, good or bad. That counts as an experience. So just don't
Yes.
fear. Go beyond your textbooks, explore something new. You don't know you don't know in any meetup or maybe in metro anyone, the person standing next to you might be a founder of a startup who can offer you a job. The worst, if you approach him, the worst he can say is no. That's it. And after he don't know you, you don't know him. That's it. Just try and explore.
I think that's a very nice attitude to have in life, and I can tell you that that really works. So with that, guys, thank you for listening to both of us. Wish you a very happy new year ahead. Thank you. Bye bye.